Part 148. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1471. She hadn't seen him for half a year, and she wasn't sure if he didn't live here anymore. She had the door code, opened the door, went up to the second floor, and entered their bedroom. There is a huge painting in front of the bed, depicting her. She is sitting quietly on the balcony of the apartment where she has lived for a long time, surrounded by lush flowers and plants. It is dusk, the gentle light envelopes her, and she smiles softly. Wen Qiao felt a little stuffy in his heart. For many days and nights, he lay in bed like this, looking at the painting in front of him to relieve his lovesickness. There were 2 pillows on the bed, and a photo of him and her on the bedside table. There are traces of her life everywhere here. She opened the bedside table and saw a big red invitation. It's a wedding invitation. Wen Qiao's heart suddenly suffocated. Could it be that Fu Nanli had forgotten her in the past 6 months? Is he going to marry someone else? She dialed his cell phone number, but no one answered. Wen Qiao went out. It was raining outside. She didn't care so much and rushed all the way to Fu Nanli's company. The flow was smooth and no one dared to stop her. Wen Qiao went to the 58th floor and broke into his office without even knocking on the door. The office was also empty, and Fiona hurriedly followed. "Miss Wen, why are you here? Where's Fu Nanli?" "Mr. Fu is in a meeting." "When will he finish?" I don't know, the mid-year financial meeting." Wen Qiao was sitting in his office waiting for him. There was lightning and thunder, and the rain was coming hard. She felt uneasy and even thought about whether she should let go if Fu Nanli really had another woman. "I waited until 8:30 in the evening." The door of the office opened, and Wen Qiao suddenly opened his eyes and saw Fu Nanli and a tall and beautiful woman standing next to him. For a moment, her voice became hoarse and she could not speak. She originally thought that even if he had a girlfriend, she would still want to fight for it, but now, she is not so confident. Although she had something to hide, she broke up with her without any explanation. It's her fault. Wen Qiao looked at Fu Nanli. He hadn't seen him for half a year. He was still the same, even more handsome. He had an inexplicable feeling that he had looked at him for thousands of years. Fu Nanli stood there without saying a word, with a stern expression, and a pair of deep eyes that made Wen Qiao panic inexplicably. She hurriedly walked out, and when she passed him, she said, "Excuse me." Just about to open the door and go out. His wrist was grabbed, and his deep voice came, "Get out first." Then he saw the woman beside him retreating calmly. The night was thick and the lights in his office were dim. Wen Qiao raised his eyes and saw his eyes, which were deep and turbulent. It seemed that there were thousands of words in his eyes, but he didn't know what to say first. One sentence. "Are you getting married?" It was Wen Qiao who spoke first. Fu Nanli's stern face relaxed a little, and his eyes were stained with anger. "What?" "I said, are you getting married?" Fu Nanli's eyes were turbulent. "Have you been to my residence?" "Yes." Fu Nanli held her wrist tightly. "If I say yes, what are you going to do?" What he expected was that she said she would prevent him from getting married, or even come to steal the bride. But Wen Qiao lowered his eyes. "Then I wish you happiness." Mr. Fu almost exploded with anger. "Wish me happiness? Wen Qiao, you want to wish me happiness? Do you want me to marry another woman?" Wen Qiao raised her eyes and looked at him. "What do you mean I want you to marry another woman?" "You want to marry another woman. I wish you well. Isn't that okay?" Fu Nanli's face was ashen. "Am I nothing in your heart? You still wish me and other women happiness? Wen Qiao, aren't you making trouble unreasonably? What do you want me to say?" Fu Nanli pushed the person against the wall. "Don't you want to fight for it?" Wen Qiao thought thoughtfully, in that case, wouldn't I become the third party? The success angered Fu Nanli. Mrs. Fu's position has been yours from beginning to end. It has always been you. Who else can I marry besides you? Wen Qiao was stunned for a moment, but there is a wedding invitation in your bedside table. You didn't even open it and read it, but you think I'm going to marry another woman. Wen Qiao continued to be confused. Isn't it your wedding invitation? Fu Nanli was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Who should I marry? The girl just now is pretty good. Mr. Fu was on the verge of going crazy. That's my employee. Wen Qiao finally came to his senses. So whose wedding invitation is it? Ji Xianzhen's. Wen Qiao, huh? He's getting married? To whom? And his secretary. Wen Qiao, oh, then, you can give me a message and wish them a happy marriage. Fu Nanli squinted at her. What are you doing here today? Outside the floor-to-ceiling window, the wind and rain were swaying, and Wen Qiao mustered up his courage. I'm here to win your heart back, Mr. Fu. Fu Nanli's eyes instantly became tender. Wen Qiao, my heart has always been with you. How can you save my heart? Wen Qiao stood on tiptoes and kissed his lips. Although things have changed, he is still waiting for her. How virtuous and capable is she? At night, in Fu Nanli's apartment, the girl was sitting on the sofa. The nobleman put one hand in his pocket and pointed at her head with the other, mercilessly lecturing her. Do you want to piss me off to death, Wen Qiao? Wen Qiao gave him a guilty look. Why didn't you tell me? Why did one person carry everything? What if you have something wrong with you? Wen Qiao spread his hands. Look, nothing happened to me, and I got the evidence that I didn't kill your father. I have handed it over to the police, and the police have detained He Ziwei. This is the biggest frustration in Fu Nanli's heart. You should have told me. I can cooperate with you in acting. Wen Qiao pursed his lips and said, when you were dealing with Fu Zhang before, you lied about the plane accident. Didn't you tell me about it? Wen Qiao, are you taking revenge on me? Wen Qiao quickly raised his hand. It's not to retaliate against you. Why didn't you tell me before? It was because you were afraid that I would worry. Why didn't I tell you now? It was also because I was afraid that you would worry. I'm not sure if I can succeed. What is He Ziwei? We all know this kind of person. If he breaks the boat. Fu Nanli was silent. Wen Qiao added, it's about your father, and I don't want you to be involved. If you are involved, I won't be able to explain anything to your mother and grandfather. Fu Nanli squeezed her hand. Don't hide anything from me in the future. Wen Qiao, yeah, okay. The police went to He Ziwei's villa and handcuffed him. He glanced at Teresa with a dark look, and Teresa felt guilty. He Ziwei smiled in a low voice. Did you tell Wen Qiao? Teresa almost knelt down. I don't want your husband to make the same mistake again and again. That girl Wen Qiao is not so easy to control. He Ziwei raised his eyebrows. I didn't say anything, so you don't have to be afraid. Teresa felt too guilty to look at him. He Ziwei laughed at himself. Forget it, the five-pointed star should be whatever it is. I can't force it. Maybe it shouldn't belong to me in the first place. There is a bottle of medicine on the bedside table in my bedroom for Wen Qiao to inject. In her body, she will no longer be troubled by my blood. On a night of heavy rain, he was taken away. Teresa stood at the door, looking at the man, thinking, was the child personality forced out by Wen Qiao just now real, or was he acting? Neither knows. Fu Xianyuan was not killed by Wen Qiao, and the truth of the incident was finally revealed. During this period, even though Wen Qiao was believed to have caused Fu Xianyuan's death, none of the Fu family, including Mr. Fu and Ye Mingkaiu, felt sorry for Wen Qiao. Although he was not polite to her, he never retaliated in private. Wen Qiao knew that the Fu family had always been like this. cold on the outside and hot on the inside. Fu Nanli took her to his father's grave and gave her a bouquet of flowers. When he died, it was winter, but now, it is summer, Wen Qiao's favorite season. She presented a bouquet of chrysanthemums and then observed a minute of silence. In fact, I didn't say anything in my heart, I just hoped that he could rest in peace. A man who has been wandering for half his life can finally rest in the Fu family cemetery. Not far away is the mansion where he grew up. His family lives there. Perhaps, for him, this is enough. Wen Qiao, Fu Nanli, and her family went to watch the variety show finals that Wen Mo participated in. When she chuckled softly, I look over and see that my Xiao Mo has won the championship. Su Yun tsked lightly, you kid, be humble. Wen Qiao said, our Xiao Mo will definitely win the championship. Su Yun was speechless, you are just like Xiao Qi. The two siblings said in unison, that's because we have confidence in Xiao Mo. Fu Nanli looked at Wen Qiao with a smile. And with the help of their brother and sister, in the 2-hour competition, Wen Mo excelled in various events, with the highest score in every event, and won the championship tonight with a crushing advantage. Wen Qi cooed, Mom, if you see it, I'll tell you Xiao Mo can do it. Su Yun just clapped and said excitedly, yes, yes, Xiao Mo is so awesome. Wen Qiao leaned on Fu Nanli and couldn't stop clapping his hands. Flowers, honors, applause, everything surged forward, and Wen Mo finally dared to speak on the stage. He didn't speak fluently, but finally mentioned his sister, thank you most to my sister, Wen Qiao, for bringing me back from a lonely planet and allowing me to live a normal life. Thank you. Wen Qiao's eyes were slightly moist, and Fu Nanli bent down and kissed her forehead, you not only took him back, but also another person. Thank you very much. After all the players and staff had left, only the Wen family and Fu Nanli were left in the studio. Wen Qiao held Fu Nanli's hand and said, let's go too. Wait a moment. From the corner of his eye, Wen Qiao saw Fu Nanli's mother and grandfather, as well as his grandmother, who were the most important people to him. Fu Nanli stood up, his body erect, and Wen Qiao noticed that he was dressed very formally today, wearing a suit outside his white shirt. Suddenly, he knelt down. Wen Qi said, damn, brother-in-law, are you going to propose to my sister? Su Yun covered his mouth, and Uncle Ji patted his head, in this situation, be careful what you say. Fu Nanli looked at her with pious eyes, unprecedented tenderness and unprecedented solemnity. Wen Qiao, marry me. Her family, his family, were all there. He knew what she valued most, that it was small and cozy, and did not require much ostentation or publicity to the world. Many scenes flashed through Wen Qiao's mind, recalling the first time he met him when he was unconscious in a car accident, and the first time he lied and claimed to be his girlfriend. The emotional thread is entangled. After that I couldn't sort it out anymore and kept cutting. All eager eyes were upon her. Wen Qiao stretched out his hand and smiled contentedly, I do. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1472. Chapter 1472. This is the end of this article, sir. Throw flowers. As usual, I have to say something when I finish the book, so I'll just thank you, my administrator, and every reader who supported me in writing this book. Kinga, Tang Tang, Yui Yu, Memories of Autumn, Xia, Sister Lan, Looking at the World with Laughter, Scenery of Love, Green Lemon, Fan 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 Fan, Nxia Oyan, 100 Birds Chow Feng, Do Ding Ding, She is a Little Sad, Holding Lotus Leaves, At Ji, Not Knowing the Way Home, Yang Guang, Love of the South, Ya Yu Leisurely, Liu Liu Dashun, Du, Night Silk, He Chow Hurts, Mammon Sands, Closed Today, Xiao Tang, Kixia, faint fragrance, long long girlfriend, Luying Ziwivu, Ruoshui, pampering Yuzai. Doraemon, tangerine sissy, ding hee hee, MJX, pink Yadu, min, love is like a poppy, liang liang at, Ziajoa, hong, ji, warm heart, akakai kakai, fairies wishing pond, gu. Wait readers. Thanks for your support. After the book is finished, it will take some time to revise the manuscript for publication. I will probably publish a new article in November, tentative. See you then. If there are any activities, we will notify you in the group, 712200469. Then this book ends here, and there should be no extra chapters. As for getting married, having children, etc., it's up to everyone to figure it out, so it's still necessary to leave blank space. Today, the boss has made it to the finals of the Courageous Writer Sister. Thank you very much for your little star support. I love you. See you in the next book. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1473. Lu Iryi, a celebrity in Kyoto, is handsome, noble, cold-hearted, and has never cared about anyone in his life. Until I was 25 years old, I met 18-year-old Jo Tao. At first glance, he just thought she was a beautiful girl, prettier than the girls he usually saw. But he seemed to have no emotions or desires. Even though he was beautiful, he didn't take it to heart. He was not familiar with Jo Tao, and he didn't know that the old man called her here just to bring them together. 2 years later, Jo Tao reached the legal age for marriage. The old man seemed to like her very much, so he called him over and asked him to marry Jo Tao. In the past 2 years, Jo Tao did go in and out of the Lu family mansion frequently, but she was not very courageous and did not dare to do anything in front of him. Most of the time, she just glanced at him quietly from somewhere not far or near. My father's ambition was not to be in business, so when he became an adult, he was in charge of almost all Lu's businesses. He has a one-size-fits-all character in the Lu family. Except for the old man who has the right to speak in front of him, no one can order him to do anything. He has never been close to women, and he has not had much contact with that beautiful girl Jo Tao. When the old man asked them to get married, his first reaction was to resist. The old man claimed that he was ill and that if he didn't get married, he might die. He had no choice but to marry Jo Tao. What he didn't know was that Jo Tao thought he married her willingly. Therefore, his neglect after marriage made her fall from heaven to hell, leaving her puzzled. If you were to ask him when he first fell in love with Jo Tao, it would probably be that rainy day. In the summer, there were thunderstorms, and the old man called and said it was Jo Tao's birthday. He asked him in an almost commanding tone to go back and accompany Jo Tao. After a day of meetings, I was already depressed. When I opened the door, it was raining heavily outside. Probably because she didn't expect him to come back, she was wearing white pajamas, with long hair hanging loose, sitting cross-legged on the carpet, with a small cake in front of her with a candle on it. There was no light on in the room, only the weak light from the candle light reflected on her face. I don't know why, but at that moment, his heart seemed to be hit hard, and he stood at the door for a while. Because of the thunder and lightning, she didn't notice the sound of the door opening, nor did she notice that he was back. She seemed to be afraid of thunder and lightning. There was a crack outside, her hand holding the fork shook, and the fork fell on the carpet. She muttered and took another handful. "Cute," was the only word that came out of his heart. He himself was stunned by such an adjective, and then shook his head. She ate the cake one bite at a time, poured a glass of red wine on the side, and took 2 sips. She probably had too little wine, and she became drunk within a few sips. She started swearing, which was cute. She scolded him, "Lu Wenzo, what's so great about you? Humph, you don't come home all day long after getting married. What the hell? If you're so reluctant, why did you get married? Who are you?" He slowly walked closer to her. She was so frightened that she let go of her hands and spilled the wine glass on the ground. Her face was crimson and her eyes were misty. If his temper was not so high, maybe that day would be a turning point for their marriage. But, no, he was used to being aloof, and he didn't change the way he treated her just because of the cuteness she revealed. In fact, due to various misunderstandings, she gradually gave up on him. For 2 years, as far as he was concerned, the marriage existed in name only. Several times, he wanted to change himself, but he didn't know how to change it. As a result, this marriage is getting worse and worse. I will update a little extra story about Mr. Lu and Joutao. It will be very short, at most 5,000 words. Later, there will be a few extra chapters about Nan Li and Xiao Xiao's post-marriage story. If you have any plots you want to see, you can mention them, or if you think there are any pitfalls that I haven't filled in, or you can say, after all, it's too long, and I may have overlooked some plots. The extra chapter is very short, about 10,000 words, and then it's really over. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1474. Finally, she couldn't bear it anymore and filed for divorce, but he regretted it. But even if he regrets in his heart, it doesn't show on his face. Perhaps, at a certain moment, he had already liked Joutao, but he never admitted it. After the divorce, he regretted increasingly. She entered the entertainment industry and became more and more confident, with many men appearing around her. He had a sense of crisis. It is true that the word crisis is not suitable for his ex-husband, but he regretted it. Maybe it was God's punishment for him. He begins to pursue his ex-wife again. Things have turned around. How he treated Joutao indifferently before, Joutao returned it to him. 2.5 years later, he experienced firsthand how Joutao lived like a year in her marriage. He really deserves to die. He invested in a movie, a lost children movie. When Joutao was 24 years old, she played the role of a 28-year-old rural woman with a 2-year-old child. No one believed she could do this movie, after all, she was so beautiful. She worked hard for that movie and cut off her long hair. Before the filming, she lived in that small village for 6 months and was exposed to the sun every day, so it finally became less white. He even learned the dialect from local residents. She was diligent and talented in learning, and she quickly mastered the authentic local dialect. The director breathed a sigh of relief. He had originally planned to let her speak in dialect, but he was afraid that she would be criticized for being nondescript. When filming started, Lu Wenzo was on the set almost every day. Everyone said that the investment boss seemed to attach great importance to this movie. Only a few people knew that Boss Lu valued Joutao because he knew that Joutao's wish was to win the Best Actress award. So far she has only won the Best Newcomer award. Boss Lu hopes to use this movie to help her win the Best Actress crown. The script, director, producer, and all the actors are all the most suitable for this movie. Except for Joutao, there are no popular stars who can help the movie's box office. Mr. Lu doesn't care about box office. The filming of this movie was very difficult because Joutao had many crying scenes, which were adapted from real events. Therefore, Joutao acted very immersed and emotional, and sometimes she cried so much that she could not perform the scene. Lu Wenzo could only call a halt, take her into the RV, and comfort her. He even brought a psychiatrist with him throughout the whole process because he was afraid that Joutao's inability to appear in the show would have any impact on her psychology. 3 months later, the film was finally completed. Zhou Tao had more than 200 scenes and cried probably 150 times. Lu Wenzhou regretted a little, whether it was right or wrong for him to help her make this movie, whether it was more important for her to win the Best Actress award, or for her body to be more important. Fortunately, Zhou Tao's character is strong enough. Although it was very painful during filming, there was no situation where she couldn't perform. The 100 Flowers Award is in July, and the movie is released at the end of July. Lu Wenzhou was even a little uneasy. The 100 Flowers Award was very authoritative and was not controlled by capital. Whether it was good or bad was decided by the judges of the organizing committee. Zhou Tao is not worried. He should eat and drink when he should. Winning prizes depends on your fate. There are times in your life that you must have. Don't force yourself into things that don't exist in your life. Finally, on the night of the 100 Flowers Awards, she put on a D-brand haute couture dress. Lu Wenzhou sent her a message, "Can I walk the red carpet with you?" Zhou Tao replied, "Okay." That night, these two men murdered countless films. The handsome men and beautiful women were so eye-catching that other stars on the red carpet were overshadowed. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1475. On the long red carpet, Lu Wenzhou took Zhou Tao's hand and walked step by step in front of the host. Faced with Mr. Lu's strong aura, the host almost didn't dare to open an interview. Fortunately, Zhou Tao was smiling. The host said bravely, "All the actresses selected tonight are powerful actresses. Zhou Tao, are you confident in winning the award?" Zhou Tao said a few polite words, such as being shortlisted was the greatest affirmation for her, and then the host let them into the infield. In the huge venue, the crystal chandeliers were luxurious and the stage was gorgeous and dazzling. Zhou Tao and Lu Wenzhou were sitting in the front row. She was in a daze, the award was so close, it was impossible not to have extravagant hopes. This is the most authoritative award in the country. She has been in the entertainment industry for a few years, so she naturally hopes to be recognized by the industry. Lu Wenzhou felt her nervousness and held her hand. Zhou Tao did not push it away. The photographer boldly took a close-up of the two people holding each other's hands. Mr. Lu is almost overflowing with desire to reconcile with his ex-wife. When the award ceremony began, Lu Wenzhou felt that Zhou Tao's palms were cold because she was nervous. It seemed that she really valued tonight's award. Finally, it was time for the award ceremony for the best actresses. The nominees tonight are indeed all-powerful. Except for Zhou Tao, they are all heavyweight actresses in their 40s. The presenting guest unfolded the card in his hand and smiled slightly, "Best Actress, winner." Zhou Tao's heart almost reached her throat. Mr. Lu's face was ashen, "So why bother? Can't you just say it? I really can't stand the behavior of these award-winning guests." "Who is it?" Zhou Tao's fans screamed wildly in the outfield, "Zhou Tao, Zhou Tao. Best Actress, Zhou Tao." Applause came in like a flood, and Zhou Tao's mind went blank. She was confused, as if she was in a huge dream. Unbelievable. Lu Wenzhou leaned over and hugged her, "Congratulations, Best Actress, come on stage to receive your award." Zhou Tao then stood up. On the left was Lu Wenzhou, and on the right were her bosses Wen Qiao and Fu Nanli. Wen Qiao also came over to hug her, "You deserve your title, Miss Movie Queen." Zhou Tao's eyes turned red instantly, and she whispered, "Thank you." Wen Qiao smiled, "You should thank yourself for your good acting, and you should also thank Lu Wenzhou. He planned this movie. He only cares about you winning awards and not caring about the box office at all." Zhou Tao came on stage. Wearing a diamond-encrusted starry sky dress, she was dazzling and so beautiful that it was almost unreal. Lu Wenzhou looked at the people on the stage, his heart racing. He felt so honored by her radiant light. Zhou Tao received the heavy trophy and then bowed 90 degrees, receiving thunderous applause from the audience. Although she is young, everyone knows that she deserves the title and she acted so well. She held the trophy, stood in front of Li Mei, and looked at the people in the audience. I want to thank my boss, Wen Qiao. Without her, I wouldn't be where I am today. Zhou Tao thanked many people, including Lu Yuyu, Xiao Ai, the company's agent, the film's producer, director, and co-actors. Lu Wenzhou seemed calm, but in fact, he also had desires in his heart. I hope she can mention his name on the most glorious stage. I hope she can recognize him. Finally, Zhou Tao seemed to have thanked everyone and stopped. Lu Wenzhou's heart sank. Still without a name, it seems he still needs to work hard. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1476. But Zhou Tao paused for a moment, and then slowly said, I also want to thank one person, the producer of this movie. He was an investor in several TV movies I made before. Thank you for everything he has done for me. This trophy is half of your contribution. Thank you, Mr. Lu. Lu Wenzhou couldn't help but laugh. No amount of money or fame can be worth her thank you. The awards night came to a successful conclusion. A large number of reporters stood outside and watched Zhou Tao get into Master Lu's car. Zhou Tao and Lu Wenzhou were sitting in the back seat. Zhou Tao still held the golden trophy in her hand. She felt satisfied. Go to my place and I will cook you dinner myself, or should I say, midnight snack. Verbal thanks were not enough, she also wanted to thank him with practical actions. Lu Wenzhou waited for a long time and finally received her invitation. Okay. The car passed an intersection, and a truck came speeding in the cross lane. It ran through the red light and was obviously unable to stop, and was about to hit their car. Everything happened so suddenly that Lu Wenzhou instinctively stretched out his arms to hug Zhou Tao, completely protecting her in his arms. There was a bang, and Zhou Tao was shaken by the violent vibration, causing her head to spin and she developed tinnitus. Lu Wenzhou's car was hit by a truck on the isolation belt. The cars on his side were hit and deformed, and white smoke emitted from the car. Because he protected her, Zhou Tao only suffered minor injuries, but Lu Wenzhou was seriously injured. Deep red blood slowly flowed from his forehead. He was unconscious, but he still maintained the posture of holding Zhou Tao. There were noisy voices outside, followed by the sounds of police cars and ambulances. Zhou Tao's voice became hoarse and she called his name softly, Lu Wenzhou, Lu Wenzhou. No response. Zhou Tao held his hand, her eyes red. Wake up, wake up. The car door opened and the police rescued them. Lu Wenzhou was unconscious and carried into the ambulance. She accompanied him the whole time. At the door of the operating room, many people came, including his younger brother and sister, Wen Qiao, and the others. Zhou Tao sat on the bench, feeling a little cold. Wen Qiao held her hand. Zhou Tao asked her, is he seriously injured? If she remembered correctly, it seemed that the truck was loaded with construction steel bars, and it seemed, as if his chest was penetrated by a steel bar. Will he die? If he hadn't rushed to save her, wouldn't he have suffered this disaster at all? Or maybe he didn't accompany her to an awards show, or maybe he didn't invite her to his home, which could have been avoided. When Qiao comforted her, my uncle went in to do the surgery. Don't worry, nothing will happen. That position is dangerous, right? Zhou Tao looked at her with tears in her eyes. Wen Qiao didn't dare to tell her the truth. That position might have hurt his heart. He just hoped that his uncle could bring him back to life. My uncle is a world-class doctor. The god of death can't steal people from his hands. Don't worry, don't worry. This operation was very difficult. Even though Susie was on the operating table, he still didn't dare to pat his chest and say that he would be saved. From 11 o'clock in the evening to 9 o'clock in the morning, from dark to dawn, Joe Tao didn't drink a drop of water, and completely lost the brilliance of last night. At 9:30, the door to the operating room finally opened. Joe Tao stood up nervously and looked at the attending doctor, Susie. Susie took off his mask and said to Wenqiao, "He's alive." Joe Tao's tears fell down, and her heart felt at ease. Lu Wenzhou felt that he had slept for a long time. When he woke up, it was raining outside and the light was dim. He saw Joe Tao dozing next to the bed. When he moved slightly, she woke up. Her eyes were red, obviously she had cried, and her expression was haggard, which made him feel distressed. "Why don't you go to bed if you're sleepy?" Zhou Dahong looked at him with eyes. "Why are you so stupid? Did I block a knife for you before and you want to return it to me?" He raised his hand and touched her face. "No, I just instinctively don't want you to get hurt, and I don't have that many thoughts." Zhou Tao choked and said, "I shouldn't have let you go to my house. Silly, I'm very happy if you take the initiative to invite me. It's worth dying." Zhou Tao squeezed his hand. "You are not allowed to say such words in the future." Lu Wenzhou's smile was a little weak. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." There was a piece of gauze on her forehead. He raised his hand to touch her head. Zhou Tao quickly bowed his head and touched it lightly with his finger. "Are you injured?" "A little skin injury, it doesn't matter, don't worry." Immediately afterwards, Zhou Tao seemed to be thinking for a moment and said, "Let's be together again." For a long time, the person on the hospital bed did not speak. Zhou Tao suddenly felt a little embarrassed. "If you don't want to, then forget it." But Lu Wenzhou struggled to sit up. "I am willing." Zhou Tao quickly held him down. "Are you going to die? You just finished the operation, so you can't move around." Lu Wenzhou looked regretful. "I should be the one to say it. I want to kneel down on one knee and propose to you. The previous time was very perfunctory. This time, I want to be more formal to make up for the regrets of the last time." Zhou Tao couldn't help but laugh. "I don't care about this. I care and I want the best for you." Zhou Tao tilted her head and smiled. "Then wait until your injury improves and then get another patch." "Okay," he said solemnly and seriously. A week later, Lu Wenzhou's injuries were still serious, but he could no longer hold himself back. Zhou Tao came in with a thermos pot and opened the lid. Inside was the bone soup she had stewed by herself. She washed her hands and made soup for him like this, looking like she had washed away all the trouble. Turning around, she saw the man half kneeling in front of her. It was quite sudden, and she was caught off guard. The sun was shining brightly outside the window, and the roses and geraniums on the bedside table were blooming brightly. His eyes had never been warmer and tenderer than before. "Zhou Tao, marry me." Zhou Tao was stunned for a moment, then stretched out her hand. "This time, let's grow old together." "Okay, let's grow old together." Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1477. The wedding of Fu Nanli and Wen Qiao was unprecedentedly grand. Almost all the famous families in Haikan came. No one who could be named in the political, business and entertainment circles wanted to miss this grand wedding. Haikan's wedding was to fulfill the old man's wish. After all, this was his only grandson, so it had to be grand. After the wedding in Haikan, Fu Nanli took Wen Qiao to a primitive small village in Africa. This time, all those attending the wedding were their closest family and friends. After a simple and heartwarming wedding in Africa, the whole family returned to Haikan together. Fu Nanli asked Wen Qiao where he would like to live. whether it was a villa on the mountainside of Qianshui Lake, or whether he wanted to live alone with him outside. It's hard for Wen Qiao to say this. She just got married and she still wants to enjoy the world of two people. But if she says this, the old man and mother-in-law will not be happy. Unexpectedly, the old man and Yamingkai were very open-minded and simply kicked them out. There is a mountain behind Xiaotangshan Club, which is also a wealthy area. The villa on the hillside is surrounded by mountains and rivers, and the environment is very good. Fu Nanli and Wen Qiao's new house is there. Wen Qiao went home to pack her luggage. Su Yun helped her fold clothes and said, "When do you plan to have a baby?" These words confused Wen Qiao, as she seemed not to have thought about this yet. Su Yun couldn't help but laugh. "I think you are still a child. Why don't you just take it slow? I think even Fu Nanli can understand." Although Qiao is in her 20s, in this regard, her mental age is at most 17 or 18. But Fu Nanli is over 30, and he is an only son. I'm afraid the old man is in a hurry. This matter also depends on chance. Half a year after Wen Qiao got married, it was Christmas. He who had always been in good health and had a good routine suddenly felt a little sleepy. It was snowing outside. Fu Nanli came out of the bathroom and saw the person on the bed still huddled under the quilt, looking lazy. He put on the captain's uniform, sat on the edge of the bed, and held her hand. "Help me tie my tie." The first hand that came out was a hand. Compared with his, it was white and small, very cute. The next thing that got out of the bed was her head, with thorny hair and laziness, and the words "I'm so sleepy" written in the eyes. "What did you do during the day? Why don't you get enough sleep lately?" Wen Qiao leaned against him lazily. "It's not because of you." Fu Nanli pinched her slender wrist. "I'm very temperate." Wen Qiao suddenly felt his stomach churn and rushed into the bathroom. Young Master Fu was stunned. Why did he still call her disgusting? Both of them suffered from inexperience. Wen Qiao vomited for several days, and then he realized that something was wrong, so he called Lu Yuyu first. Although she is married to Dong Yao, Lu Yuyu, who is not yet pregnant, doesn't know why she is so experienced. "Qiao, you must be pregnant." Only then did Wen Qiao remember to take his own pulse. This pulse revealed that she was indeed pregnant. In the evening, she told Fu Nanli about this, and Fu Nanli immediately pulled her out and went to his own hospital. After the examination, the obstetrics and gynecology doctor took the report and said, "Mr. Fu, your wife is indeed pregnant. She is already 6 weeks old. It's been a month and a half." When Mr. Fu was happy, the whole hospital followed suit and took bribes. All employees in the hospital receive 1 month's salary as bonus. When the employees heard the good news, they all wished that Ms. Fu was pregnant with 2 children. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1478. After it was confirmed that she was pregnant, Wen Qiao was offered as a confession. Fu Nanli wouldn't let her do anything. The Fu family mansion sent several servants to take care of her. How can Wen Qiao be a person who has nothing to do? After the morning sickness, she couldn't stay any longer and did whatever she had to do. Fu Nanli's heart was in a state of turmoil, and she never had a moment of peace. In the evening, he talked to people and said, "Let's rest at home." Wen Qiao raised his eyebrows. "I am a doctor and I know how to maintain a fetus. Pregnant women should not stay still all day." So Wen Qiao did whatever he was supposed to do. Young Master Fu was worried and neglected his work. He would follow Wen Qiao wherever he went. Lu Yuyu happily told Wen Qiao, "No, your bodyguard standards are too high." Wen Qiao held his forehead. "Forget it, let him go. Those who don't listen and worry about gains and losses are just afraid that something will happen to me." Fu Dashao temporarily put down his work at the airport, and Ye Mingkai was temporarily represented by Tianhuan Group, while he devoted himself to being a housewife. Not only Fu Nanli was nervous, but Wen Qiao's family was also extremely nervous. Su Yun went to their mansion from time to time to cook for her. When Mo and Xiao Junhe will go with Su Yun, and even the arrogant Wen Qi is much more verbose than before. When Wen Qiao was 3 months pregnant, she discovered that she seemed to be pregnant with twins. She went to the hospital for an ultrasound, and sure enough, they were twins. Now, the security level at home has been raised again. Wen Qiao saw the servants at home laying anti-slip mats everywhere, and the noble Master Fu actually started to help. He immediately looked up to the sky, hoping that these few months would pass quickly. In the morning, she used to swim for a while, and Fu Nanli became her personal trainer. Wen Qiao swam from one end of the swimming pool to the other, and Fu Nanli followed closely. Wen Qiao took off his swimming goggles and looked at him. If you keep following like this, sooner or later I will get tired of you. Fu Nanli narrowed his eyes. Tired of me? Try it. Wen Qiao felt guilty. I'm not rash, and I'm a doctor. I'm already 4 months pregnant and it's stable. You don't have to be like this. The words about the will have been said countless times. Mr. Fu went in one ear and out the other, so he might give her a few perfunctory words at the moment. The next day, what to do or what to do. Never changed despite repeated admonitions. There was nothing Wen Qiao could do against him. I was so nervous every day during my pregnancy that I finally made it to my due date. 1 month before the due date, Wen Qiao was sent to the hospital by Fu Nanli and began to expect delivery. My eldest young master, it's not like that. Half of the people go to the hospital because they have stomach movements. Mr. Fu turned a deaf ear and said, I heard that both twins will be born prematurely. Wen Qiao couldn't look up to the sky. Forget it, he had endured 8 or 9 months, so it was only a few days. On the last day of delivery, Wen Qiao was sitting on the bed while Fu Nanli was feeding her breakfast. Wen Qiao's expression suddenly changed. Oh. What's wrong? Wen Qiao gently touched his belly. Oh. Young Master Fu, who thought he would not panic if he was fully prepared, was still a little helpless. Is she going to give birth? Wen Qiao's face turned pale, and beads of sweat rolled down immediately. Yes. The doctors who had been waiting for her for a long time immediately pushed her into the operating room. Fu Nanli followed the disinfection and put on surgical clothes and entered the operating room together. When she entered, Wen Qiao was gritting her teeth and exerting force. The noble and extraordinary young Master Fu, like all fathers in the world, was so nervous that he didn't know what to say. He held Wen Qiao's hand, cheered her up, and asked her to follow the doctor's instructions. Wen Qiao found him verbose. I'm a doctor, I know how to do it. Even if the mother herself is a professional, and even if the hospital dispatches the highest level doctors, the delivery room is still chaotic. After all, they are twins, and after all, Master Fu is watching the whole process, so the doctors don't dare to neglect them. Fortunately, Wen Qiao insists on exercising and strictly follows the nutritious meals prescribed by the nutritionist, so the child is not too big. After 3 hours of pain, Wen Qiao successfully gave birth to 2 children. A boy and a girl. Even the strong-willed Wen Qiao was still too exhausted to speak a word after giving birth to 2 children. Fu Nanli didn't even look at the child, his attention was entirely on Wen Qiao. Zhou, thank you for your hard work. Wen Qiao shook his hand and closed his eyes. I'll take a rest. Of course she was moved. Fu Nanli loved her. Even after giving birth to a child, she was still the most important person in his heart. The surgeon in charge said cautiously, Master, both children are very healthy. One weighs 5 pounds, and the other weighs 3 to 4 pounds. Young Master Fu waved his hand. I understand. 2 babies. Dad, can you look at us? It seems that he is not his biological child. The two children were taken to be baptized, and Wen Qiao was transferred to the VIP ward. Fu Nanli was with Wen Qiao throughout the whole process, and a large group of people were waiting outside the delivery room. They could only have a quick look at each other, and then were left outside the ward. Wen Qi, brother-in-law, is too overbearing. Su Yun patted him on the back. Your sister has just given birth and is tired. Please don't bother her. Soon, the two children were brought over. Wen Qi, Wen Mo, Xiao, and Jun He all gathered around to look at the children. Everyone felt that it was so strange that they were so small and soft, but they were very beautiful when they were born. After all, they had the genes of their parents. It's just too powerful. Su Yun and Ji Mingyuan looked at the two little guys in the nurse's hands with relief. So cute, so pretty. Yes, yes, I have never seen a child so beautiful after birth. Su Yun was a little proud. My three children were all very good looking when they were born, especially Qiao Qiao. When she was born, she was as white as snow. She didn't look like a newborn at all. The old man of the Fu family and Yamingkai also came. When the old man saw the two little guys who looked like glutinous rice dumplings, his eyes almost turned red. Okay, really good, really good. Yamingkai touched the little faces of the two babies, unable to hide their smiles. Fortunately, that child Wen Qiao went to great lengths to prove her innocence. She knew that her family, Nanli, would only recognize her as her own person for the rest of her life. This girl is a lucky person after all. She gave birth to twins at once. It was worth it for Nanli to meet him. Neither of them went in to disturb the two people. The child was sent in and placed on a small bed aside. Wen Qiao slept for a while. When she woke up, it was already dusk. She was awakened by the cry of her child. When he opened his eyes, he saw Mr. Fu sitting next to the crib, helpless. Stop crying, what if I wake your mother? Wen Qiao held his forehead. They have just been born, and you are already training them. Fu Nanli's attention immediately turned to her. Are you awake? Are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere? Do you want to call the doctor? There is no discomfort. Why is the child crying? Not sure. Two children. What will you do if you have parents like this in the future? It was Su Yun who was outside listening to the child crying, and then came in and said, the children are hungry, feed them quickly. The new parents were in a hurry and had no idea what to do, and Wen Qiao was confused the whole time. Her adaptation period lasted for 6 months. After 6 months, when the child could sit up, she realized that she was already a mother. Wen Qiao's focus has shifted a lot to family, and work matters are left to the people below. Many things are taken care of by Lu Yuyu. So much so that Dong Yao came to her several times and told her not to exploit Lu Yuyu all the time. Lu Yuyu also had a husband and a family. Fortunately, Lu Yuyu told her not to feel any pressure, saying that she was very happy with it and especially enjoyed the pleasure of being a strong career woman. It was summer when the child was born, and now it's winter again. Wen Qiao and Fu Nanli got the two children ready and went to bed together. There are a lot of confinement nannies at home, and Fu Nanli also wants the child to sleep in the nursery. But now that Wen Qiao has become a mother, her whole body has become softer, and she is a little reluctant, saying that she will not let the child out until he is 3 years old. Young Master Fu felt that he was being spoiled by his children, and he really didn't like the two cubs. The two 6-month-old babies have to endure the cold treatment from their biological father every day. It seems to be snowing outside when Qiao's eyes sparkled with excitement. She took Fu Nanli to the balcony. It was snowing heavily outside. The child was sleeping quietly in the bedroom. Fu Nanli took her into his arms, bent down and kissed the top of her head. Let's watch the snow together every year from now on, okay? Wen Qiao squeezed his hand. Okay, I have something to say to you. What? Wen Qiao stood on tiptoes and whispered in his ear, "I love you, Mr. Fu." Fu Nanli bent down and kissed her, "Mrs. Fu, I love you too." It's officially over. It's up to everyone to figure out the married life of Fu Xiao and Qiao Qiao. Thanks for your support. See you in the next book.